And I quit drinking like a sip of alcohol for 2 years. I went vegan to save money. I rode my bike to work. I lived behind a curtain. I took advantage of being a single male living in a city by spending as little as possible and making as much as I felt like I could, so that in the future, my wife didn't have to work and I could provide for my family and I could spend time with my family later.
Welcome to the Our Family Invest podcast, where we explore what happens when family, purpose, and entrepreneurship align. I'm Mike, a former Maui firefighter who reached financial freedom in just 5 years through real estate investing.
And I'm Caroline, a Maui-based realtor here to educate, empower, and elevate my clients to make smart real estate moves, whether right here at home or through my nationwide network.
Together, we're chasing our full potential as individuals, as a couple, and as a family. We're here to build a life that matters. And each week we share the stories of couples who inspire us to love harder, dream bigger, and grow bolder. So join us and let's learn, share, and grow together. All right, today we're excited to be joined by Craig and Grace Curleop. Craig is known as the Fi Guy. He hit millionaire status and financial independence by 27, and now he's scaling an investor-friendly real estate team and building co-living companies that challenge the way people think about community. Grace is a gifted photographer who walked away from the 9-to-5 to pour her creativity into art, storytelling, and building a thriving homestead full of life and intention. Together, they're rewriting what freedom looks like, blending business, beauty, and purpose into a life that inspires. All right, you guys, we're super excited to have you here. But before we dive into all the questions and all that, I want to kind of get to know who each of you are at your core a little bit more. So, Grace, if I were to ask you, who is the Craig that only you know, what would you say? And then maybe Craig, you could answer the same for Grace.
Well, I would say the side that I see that a lot of people don't see is his really silly, goofy side. And he can be very gentle and soft in a good way. So yeah, but my favorite side is just like how he gets super silly and goofy with me, because that is like my favorite type of Craig, where everything's just light and funny and like we'll get into these little giggle fits. So maybe a lot of people don't know that about him.
Craig, what would you say about Grace?
Let's see. The thing that I'd say Grace is she's like so authentic and so real that I feel like Grace doesn't need to put on a front, because she's just like is who she is. And I think people love her, and she just like lights up every room that she goes into, is the feedback I get about her a lot. I suppose the side that maybe some people don't see is that maybe like if you don't take your shoes off before you get in the house, like there's going to be issues. And I don't think people really know that she's a little bit of a clean freak maybe, but I've learned to be a lot cleaner ever since being married to this wonderful woman.
That and not sitting on the bed with your outside clothes or putting backpacks on a dining table. I could go on and on.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things, that add up to very big things.
All for the health of the home. I love it. And that's how Grace and I resonated with each other.
Yes.
Okay, so we know your story. And for those who don't, could you share how you two first met and what your first date was like?
Your story or my story?
Your story, but I'll interject.
Okay. All right. So we'll rewind back to 2019. I was on the Bigger Pockets podcast, and I was talking all about investing in Denver and all that kind of stuff. And Grace had moved to Denver a couple of years prior. She was interested in real estate and was looking at investing in Indiana because the market was cheaper. And she heard people could kind of start there and you could buy cash flowing properties there. And she went to college there. And so when she heard my podcast on Bigger Pockets and that I was in Denver and making properties cash flow in Denver, she decided to reach out because I was a realtor. And so she sent me a message on Bigger Pockets. And
you know what he did? He zoomed in to see what I looked like.
That's standard though, Grace. Everybody does.
I do that with all of my clients.
I do that with everyone who follows me on Instagram too.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I'm a single 25 or 26-year-old guy, and I see a girl in my inbox, and mind you, girls don't show up in my inbox very often. So I was like, oh, is she cute? Is there opportunity here? And sure enough, I helped her buy her first house hack. She was actually I think you were my first female client, technically, probably like the fifth or sixth house I ever sold. During that whole process of the home buying process of going in and out of contract and kind of working through things and seeing houses. We just really developed a good relationship, and we actually didn't talk so much about real estate, but just were kind of silly with each other and fun with each other. And we just realized how much like we enjoyed being with each other. And so even after then, we, the deal closed, and then another deal was opening up, I suppose. And then we kind of started the romantic stuff right after.
Nice.
So you were like, hey, I've cashed my commission check. Do you want to go on a date? Or like,
She was like, no, she was like, how much did you make? I need to get that back.
dinner.
Yeah. Dinner. In fact, let me just marry you, and then it's basically mine.
Well, one thing you left out was when I was under contract, it was around the holidays. So I was leaving to go back home right after we had gone under contract. So I had to send in my earnest money. I messaged Craig. I was like, hey, would you mind dropping this off at title tomorrow? Because I'm going to be out of town. And he's like, well, why don't we just exchange the check over dinner? And I was like, what? That's weird. So I was talking to my friend, my roommate, and she was like, okay, well, listen, my mom has been a realtor for the past 20, 30 years, and she does not take people out to dinner to exchange earnest money. So I'm pretty sure this is a date. So that was technically our first date,
Yep,
even though he'll deny it.
It was not really that intentional by it, but it did end up being a date. And it was kind of awkward because at the end, like if you don't really know it's a date or not, and you're like kind of trying to have this balance of client versus maybe something more, at the end we like went in for a hug, and it was like the most awkward hug ever, where like I kind of gave her like a half awkward, half body hug like this.
It was I cringed thinking about it.
And somehow if I wasn't her realtor and she didn't like have to talk to me going through the deal, we probably wouldn't be together right now.
Yeah.
After that first date.
Yeah.
But you got the EMD, and it's all downhill from there.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. Awesome. So when that was awkward hug, when did you, I mean, obviously progress through the transaction, but when was there a moment, or was there any kind of sign where you just kind of just knew like you wanted to spend the rest of your life with each other?
I feel like it was kind of a slow burn, in that like we were throughout the whole transaction, I could tell like this girl is going to at least be a very good friend of mine. And we, again, we'd laugh, we'd play, like we was fun. Like it wasn't so like touchy feely flirty, maybe a little, but not really. Like it wasn't like this, like it wasn't really like the movies played it out to be, right? It was just like we were just fantastic friends, and I just felt like I wanted to do whatever for her, and she loved me doing whatever for her. And as we kind of hung out more and more and more, we were a little bit of it was like forced hanging out because of COVID. It was the year of COVID, and so we were kind of in each other's bubbles. And we just like, the more we hung out, the more we laughed, the more we liked each other. And I mean, it was funny because even before we started officially dating, we were talking about like what we were going to name our kids, and like all this,
four of them,
all four of them. And to this day, we're just like, I can't even believe we were talking about that at that time, because we didn't really think it was going to go that far. We just thought we were going to be dating until COVID was over.
Yeah.
But here we are. We'll say that COVID is over, and we're married now 3.5 years, and very happy. So
amazing.
I love that. So I'm also married to a photographer, and I love when I get to see how Mike captures a world. So Craig, what is it about Grace's lens that inspires you?
That's a great question. No one's asked me that before. I would say Grace does a fantastic job at like capturing a moment. And like, so she's been doing these kind of two types of things, right? She kind of started off doing a lot of shoots of couples and families and all that. And you can just see the love in the photos between the two people, to the point of like where the picture really comes alive. And she's been transitioning a little bit more into branding. So she just did a shoot of like a chiropractor and some esthetician. That's the word, esthetician. And you could just see like she can capture like even though it's a picture, like she can capture the motion of it. And you can it kind of captures like how passionate these people feel about their companies and how good of a job they are and how happy their clients are. And it just like the photos really do come alive. And I mean, you got to check out some of her stuff if you haven't already.
Love it.
Yeah, no, I've definitely perused the Instagram quite a bit. I love that she can capture, like you said, Craig, like she's very good at capturing a feeling, and that's really hard to do. Yeah, so definitely props there, Grace. You've got a lot of talent.
Thank you.
Craig, You do a lot of things, right? Realtor in multiple states. You've got the co-living businesses, you're a podcast host. Take us under the hood of what you do, what fires you up, who you serve, all that fun stuff.
Well, I mean, number one, I serve God. That is kind of like where my like passion and my drive comes from. Under that realm, I serve my wife and my family, and my contribution to the greater kingdom is to be a supporter and provider for my wife and our future family. And so that's kind of where it all comes from. And we like to do it in ways that, of course, are kind of like God fearing type ways. If I ever feel like there's anything I'm doing in business that is something that God wouldn't approve, then it just doesn't get done. And so a lot of my inspiration and a lot of my decision making just kind of comes from being in prayer daily and all that kind of stuff.
So you've leaned into co-living and community-based housing. Why does this model matter to you personally beyond just the financial?
Yeah. So what I love about co-living is that it just serves a greater purpose, right? So our bigger mission is to eliminate the affordability crisis in the US. And there's going to be multiple parts to that solution. Some of it might be building more homes, some of it might be these ADU laws, but I think a massive part of it is just allowing more people to live in the same home because it can just happen so much quicker. And so we're really serving, we're at it, we're building newer homes, cheaper homes might satisfy families. Where we're trying to really target is like the single person that makes medium or below income in any given city that just can't afford a place on their own. We feel like we're giving them a fantastic place to live in a fantastic neighborhood for less than half the price, coupled with anxiety, depression, and all of that stuff is at an all-time high right now because people just go on their phones and they're just comparing themselves to all these Instagram models and all that kind of stuff. Well, the way you defeat that, I don't care what any therapist says, like it's just being around people and being around people that love you and the community aspect. So we really try to couple the community with the affordable living and just make it an overall, better arrangement for everybody.
Love that.
That's super cool. I've looked into the co-living thing quite a bit, and it just seems like such a crazy big headache to me. And I'm sure, like, when you're looking at this for the first time, when you're looking at co-living, you see that too. It's not always easy to guess who's going to coexist well with someone else, right? How have you been able to structure it so that you see past that and you could actually build a business and mitigate as much risk as possible in the co-living realm?
You can run away from problems or you can run towards problems. And most people who run away from problems aren't very successful. But when you kind of couple together the fantastic investor returns, the amazing places to live for half the cost, and then also the government and the municipalities being really happy about more people moving to their city, it just creates win-win-win scenarios all around. And so rather than just say, oh, it's a problem having 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 unrelated people living together, it's how do we solve this problem to make it work? Because I mean, the hippies did it. There's communes all over the country. There's people that live a lot, like they live together and they make it work. And so it's all, if you just throw 6 random people in a room and don't put any structure in there, yeah, like you're doomed to fail. That's not how it works. We're totally building a system that people need to subscribe to. And if they don't subscribe to it, then they get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I know a lot of people that have tried to go down that path, but never figured out those systems. So I'm really excited that you have and that you're able to help investors make money in a market that's, right now it's tough to make money, right?
For sure.
Yeah, and just getting really creative. One tangible tip could you share on, I mean, a common problem with roommates is mess, dishes, or
Mhm.
shared toiletries. So how do you mitigate that issue?
Yeah. So for the messes, we do have this basically like we'll call it like a chore board kind of thing, where basically everyone is required to do a certain chore every week. And one of the chores that is on that list is that someone's just got to basically be, and this is rotating, be kind of like the master of the week and make sure that and kind of keep those people accountable to make those sure those chores are done. So that is kind of what keeps it pretty clean on a week to week basis. We do have a cleaner that comes in once a month. We have someone on staff we call them a household supporter. They're going to come in and do a monthly house check. And then of course, oftentimes, a handyman will have to come and do some rinky dink type repairs. And so we've got 3 people going into the house pretty much every month that
Mhm.
are from us. And then in the meantime, we're just having the tenants make sure that it's good.
Great.
So
That's brilliant. That obviously your foresight has been a catalyst in helping you get to financial independence by age 27. Amazing. But I'm curious, was there a single decision or like an aha moment that kind of set your trajectory towards financial freedom?
I mean, it was house hacking,
Yeah. You
right?
just
I
get that
mean,
first taste of, wow, this is good.
yeah. I mean, if you're not house hacking and you want financial, I mean, if you want the quickest way to financial independence, you have to house hack. Like,
Yeah.
you buy a house with such a low percent down, you live in part of it, which is the only downside, and then you're renting out the different parts of the place, and you're able to cash flow, you're getting passive income, and then you do that 3, 4, 5 years in a row, and you can at least achieve baseline financial independence, which is what I did at age 26. And then I passed that on, I know, to my wife, and now she's financially independent.
Which is why she married you and got her EMD back. Got it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, the only reason, right?
That is the only reason.
Yeah. And because I'm still
That's
the
her
one
turn.
cooking.
So if you had to start over today, what would be your first 3 steps to reach financial independence?
I would house hack. I would be less apprehensive of, like, once I've kind of figured out the house hack thing and I did it myself, and I would house hack like a co-living home. Then once I kind of got those systems figured out and I figured out that it could work, I would actually try to probably like partner with some people and buy a couple more, and then of course just house hack every year. And the
Yeah.
more of these, I mean, really with co-living, you only need 3 or 4 houses to achieve, $7,000 to $10,000 of passive income. So it doesn't take a ton to get to a financial independence for most people with that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, worth the sacrifice, at least for a little while, if you have to live in the situation. So, Grace, when Craig brought up the conversation of wanting to retire you, how did that change how you felt and your contribution and role in life together? Which you're still working too.
So when we first moved to Idaho, it was kind of a natural transition. At the time in Denver was a realtor in Denver. And then I tried that out for a year locally, and I did not enjoy that. I really enjoy working with people. So then at that point, after I was like, man, I hate like not working in front of people and like being able to just like be with people. Craig was like, well, why don't you just like quit that and then you can stay home, take care of the house, take care of the chickens, garden, all that stuff. So I was like, yeah, okay, like I'm super down for that because I love my sleep, right? So through and through, like an 8-hour minimum per night. So I was really excited about it. And that definitely, it presented its own set of challenges going from working to just having no schedule at all, like trying to figure out my own schedule day to day. So I'd say like it did put some stress on our relationship at first with, me feeling like I had to perform to a certain extent. And then, for example, I was making lunch and dinner, like different sets of meals every day, like 2 sets of meals per day. So I'd wake up, kind of do my morning routine, and then start prepping for lunch and then clean up and then have, a couple hours and then have to do it again. So I was getting really stressed out. And one day Craig was like, you don't have to do that, right? And I was like, what? He's like, we can just have leftovers from dinner for lunch. So that was kind of a breakthrough moment where I was like, oh, he actually doesn't care that much. Like this is my domain and he's allowing me to handle everything in the house as my job. Like that's my main focus and I stay in that lane while he stays in his lane of, the real estate and providing financially.
Yeah, one thing I'll add too is, like, I don't know, maybe my memory isn't great, but like I don't think we ever had like that conversation of me being like,
No.
babe, like here is financial independence. Like
Yeah.
that never happened. It was more like it was a really slow transition. Grace, by the way, was a phenomenal realtor in Denver. I think she did like 15, 20 deals a year, which
Wow.
is fantastic. And so she went from making like 150 grand or something like that, right? To then like not knowing what to do or where to go and all that. And so it was more of like, if we need you to work, like she would have. And it just so happens that, we kind of tested out her not working for a little while, and it was fine. And then yeah, like she's such a high achiever and high performer that she wanted to do everything. And don't get me wrong, I loved having steak dinners and twice a
Steak
day and
lunches.
yeah, steak lunches. Yeah. Yeah.
Fresh baguettes.
Yeah, I mean, it
No,
was
literally, like,
sourdough
fresh.
bread, freshly baked. It was great, but it was obvious, like, just cook a little more for dinner. Like I was never been that picky about food. I'm just like, I just need food in the fridge to eat. So like, I want to be able to heat something up real quick for lunch, and that's it. That's not horrible.
Yeah,
So,
he's very easy.
Oh.
Easygoing, just in general. So everything I was doing, he was like, "Sure, this is great."
Everything that you said, Grace, is like, we kind of struggle with that too, because we had a role reversal, right? When I left the fire department, I became full-time real estate investor, but then she went and got the job as realtor. And, to some degree, now she makes more money as a realtor than I do with our investments. And it's like, oh, well, how am I contributing here? And you almost have to reassess your worth in the relationship, right? And that can be really hard. But when you think about, all the things that it takes to maintain a home, there's quite a bit there too. And there's a ton of value there. So, if it wasn't you, you would be paying a ton of money to somebody else to be maintaining a lot of your lifestyle, right?
Hey family, real quick. If you'd rather watch your content, head over to Our Family Invests on YouTube. You'll find this episode and all our episodes over there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your takeaways in the comments. Now, back to the show.
For sure. Yeah, it took a little while to really recognize that. And
Yeah.
I think I would still say I struggle a little bit with it because I like seeing, like an actual reward for my work.
It is all necessary and it takes a team. And that's the beauty of, entrepreneurship, relationships, and life in general, right? So I'm glad you both chose well.
Yeah.
On the flip side, every business owner fail probably more often than we'd like to admit. What is one lesson that a failure has taught either of you?
fail? It's not in my vocabulary. No, I mean, it's probably more of like, which one should I say? So a big failure that I learned in business is that, back in 2021 and 2022, when the real estate market was booming, we had a pretty big team, and I actually wasn't in production anymore. I was basically handing off all of these super, super cushy leads to my agents, and they were closing them, and, it was like kumbaya all around, right? And was making really good money and all that. But then the market started to, late 22, early 23, the market started falling out. I totally overhired. I had like 4 or 5 full-time employees that were doing the job of one. And so, I had a payroll that was very high, and I was just bleeding money out. I think, I lost close to 6 figures in like the first 3 months of 2023. And I was pretty stressed at that time. And I had realized I just had such massive holes in my business. And so, so it took me, not long, I guess, after realizing that I was like, okay, I need to let people go. And it was hard to let people go, not because of their fault, but because of my fault, right? Like I overhired, I should never hire them in the first place, like all that kind of stuff. And so I was affecting, 2 or 3 different families. And that was kind of hard for me to kind of grapple with, but ultimately it had to be done. And what I learned from that is, basically, like, when you're hiring and when you're looking to scale, don't just hire willy-nilly, assuming that you're going to get a great ROI from each person you hire, but hire slow and like do a little test run, make sure they're the right person, make sure that the position you're hiring for absolutely is needed. And then also make sure the person you are putting in that position is the right person. And so that I've grappled with that quite a bit. And then that mistake cost me, in the market changing, cost me so much to, now I had to kind of swallow a humble piece of humble pie and get back into production. And I've been helping clients now since early 23. So going on 2.5 years. And I like it. Like I actually don't mind helping 3 or 4 clients out a month. Like that's fun for me. So yeah.
Yeah. I like that you said that, Craig, because I'm actually going through a hiring process right now, and it feels so heavy because it's for an assistant to help with podcasting. And it's hard because you know this, you have a podcast. There's a lot of work to do a podcast, right? And there's a lot of elements that have to come in place. And so I've been doing almost all of it myself for the last 9 months. And so I'm wanting to put someone out there that can kind of take over some of these skills. And I wanted to learn how all elements of the podcasting worked first. But as I'm going out to the hiring process, I'm putting it out there and I'm seeing these leads come in, and it's just like, oh man, trial basis on a lot of these, maybe this guy, maybe this guy. And then I'm thinking like, you know what? Before I started the podcast and I was doing more of my property management stuff, I had a couple of guys that were really good at what they did. And they didn't know anything about property management when I hired them. I hired them for the intangibles, right? Their integrity, their honesty, their willingness to grow. And some of what they ended up doing, or their history, kind of transfers over to what we're doing in podcasting. I kind of turned, actually, after this call, I have a Zoom meeting with one of the guys that I had previously let go, because I know that there are a lot of things that I can train him on and that he can learn on. But the thing that I cannot train on is your honesty, your loyalty, your integrity, all that stuff. So that's where, I've come back to the drawing board of like, man, putting the right people in the right chairs makes a world of difference. And I know this is the right guy. I just don't know if he's going to be in the right chair. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the test run is important. Just saying, hey, like we're going to do like a 60 or 90-day trial period here. And if at the end, and then we'll reevaluate.
Yep. And that's exactly what I'm going to propose to him too is, look, we're going to do this for, a couple months, see how it goes. If you can handle this, if this is something you want to do and it's something that, feels right with us, then let's move forward.
Yeah, we've made the mistakes of over hiring and being slow to fire because it's heavy. You're providing for families. Appreciate you sharing that. What role has mindset played in getting you to where you guys are today?
I guess growth, like both of us kind of default to always having a growth mindset. And whether that's business, spiritual, like a relationship, all facets of life, I guess, like we kind of are always looking at how can we do better at this and then what's working, what's not. So that definitely has helped.
Yeah. I mean, of course, the growth mindset is, I think it's important because like, business might be going great, but then like, how's your relationship doing? Your relationship might be going great, but then how's your health? And, it's kind of like, it feels like life is kind of like a juggling act of focusing on certain things at different times. And, and sometimes like things need more attention than others. And you just gotta like, that's kind of the way of life. I just think for me, like just the habits and discipline of doing the boring stuff and like but yet the important stuff. For me, it's like, I wake up at 5 a.m. every day and I make sure I hit the gym every day. Like, I think that is an integral part of my routine. And even in the most stressful situations and times where I could have totally let my health go, I just knew that no, from 5 to 8 a.m. is like, that's my time. And I don't care how bad the business is doing. Like, no one gets that time except, I mean, me and God. That's my time with God. And that's it. And without that, everything else falls apart. And so I think like just kind of having those rocks to fall back on when times are tough, because, if I, I'm not perfect. Like I have missed a couple days, and in those days that I miss, I can just feel like anxiety rising. I can feel things happen. And if that becomes a habit to miss those days, then your whole life becomes kind of like a mess. Right. So I think it's good to have that rock to like fall back on during tough times.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good, man. So, one of the questions I always like to ask people is about around their routines and their habits and what's contributed most to their personal growth. And, I love, now I don't have to ask you that question because I already hear it. But it's very similar to mine too. Like you said 5 to 8. I'm a little bit earlier because I have a 9-year-old. So I'm 4 to 7, but it's the same thing, right? Like I get up and I meditate, I write, I go to the gym. That's my time. Right. And so like that's where, Nico knows not to disrupt what I'm doing. And, she's leaves me alone. That's what I need to go off of. What would you say you wish that most people knew about the entrepreneurial journey?
It's not easy, but it's worth it. And not from like an egotistical standpoint, but from like a very just logical standpoint is, if you look at it, like entrepreneurship, like you're always on, but you're always off, right? I could leave. I might leave right after this and go do whatever I want, right? I'm not tied to anything. There's an immense amount of freedom that comes with it. And there's an immense amount of reward that comes from it. Like your income is not capped. And when you're an employee, I mean, if you don't make your company a return, then you will be fired. Like there's no point. That's how companies look at it. Like
Mhm.
if I pay you $100,000 a year, you better make me $200,000 a year or you're gone,
Mhm.
right? And
Yep.
so you can either be in that position or you can be in the position that is hiring somebody for $100,000 a year so that you can make $200,000 a year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say is like it's totally worth it from a logical perspective. I think it brings a lot of happiness, a lot of reward to build something, to create something. You've got to think, like problem solve and all that. It's not just showing up and hating your life and just waiting for Friday every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
What are some ways that you two stay aligned as a couple?
So how do we stay aligned as a couple? I would say the first thing that has never faltered and we never even thought about like not doing this is we have dinner together every single night. And I think we probably both almost forgot about that because it's so ingrained in us and we forget that some couples don't do that. But we have dinner together every night. And if there's ever a time there's no dinner together, like it is known well in advance if we've got something going on or whatever. So that allows, and we don't like, we're not on the phone at dinner. We're not doing that. Like, dinner is a time for us to eat and we talk about each other's days and we talk and all that kind of stuff. I would also say like as we go to bed around about the same time every night. And so phones are not allowed in the room or in our master bathroom. So during that time, like one of us is showering, the other of us is getting ready, and like, we're talking during that time. And I think that really keeps us like just aligned on the same page, updated on the days and all that kind of stuff. And then, from the weekly perspective, we go to church together every Sunday, and then we conclude that with a brunch, usually just us, or if our family's in town, our family will be included. And so there is a lot of one-on-one time that's just kind of baked into our week that I think is really important. And we're on and off with this, but we should definitely be more on with it. There's this book, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's kind of like a journal
Yeah.
and
Journal.
like some marriage journal
Yeah.
where it asks you like 6 questions every week. And it kind of just gives us a space to like evaluate our marriage a little bit, share what we're happy about, share what we're upset about, share anything that we did that maybe upset each other over the week. So rather than like making a fight out of being upset with each other, it's more of like a conversation and there's a space to provide the feedback where we're like, we're not so at odds with each other. So yeah, I guess that is.
I will say
Am I
too,
missing
we
anything?
we
Yeah.
don't usually wait until Sunday to give feedback. So if it's pretty immediate, at least for me, Craig has to simmer a little bit more, but I never let anything go without like I don't want something to build up. I don't want any resentment to build up. So usually I just get it out of my system.
Mhm.
So I think that's helped us too with just like communication and always growing to get to know each other better and what irks each other, what works.
Yeah, and that used to like bother me, like just getting feedback like that, like right in the moment. And I kind of learned like Grace just needs to get it out. Grace has learned that like I can't have the conversation right there in the moment, like unless you want me to fight back. Like I need like at least probably an hour. Sometimes it's even overnight to just like simmer on it, think about it, like think about from her perspective, think about it from my perspective, and then usually I'll come back in the morning or a couple hours later and like I'll kind of discuss everything and I'll tell her I'm sorry because you know how it goes. But yeah, no, but there's always but there's kind of like learning how your significant other gives and receives feedback.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that is such valuable points because in business where people are like, "Oh, what's your personality traits? Which enneagram are you?" But knowing that and working with your spouse, your partner in life, and the person your why on how to navigate each other, those are growth pillars, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
well done, you
Yeah,
two.
very, very good. I think we are pretty good with a lot of that stuff. Like we do a lot of, as you started that conversation, I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are complete carbon copies of us. We do the same thing. No phones in the bedroom. We always have meals together. There's no phones at the meals. Like that is something that
Yeah.
you're right. We kind of take that for granted because I know
Mhm.
most families aren't that way. But that has been significant for us too. And I think,
It's strategic way. And like you said, it's now almost, it's second nature. It's a non-negotiable, to habit. And I think that just creates a strategic way to have communication so that it's not pent up for a month where now we have a chance to talk and spill it all out. Right. So
Mhm.
I love that. And I am also along more of the lines of Grace, of a fixer, and let's just talk about it now.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I
And
don't
I
mind when a
also like to just,
conversation goes a little long.
yeah.
Ah.
All right, I want to talk about your home life, because I know you've been building like a homestead with animals and plants, and I know you guys were talking about getting goats. I don't know if you've gotten any of that yet, but paint us a picture of what homesteading looks like in your life and why you're choosing that path.
So Craig takes all the outside projects. He's my ranch hand. So there's an ongoing list, and anytime one gets checked off, it's on to the next. And there's always something to be done. So he's never bored, I guess.
I bet.
But yeah, we've got a dome, which is a greenhouse dome, and that is massive. It's 33 feet in diameter,
Holy
and
cow.
it's our first full season with it. So that's been really fun, just being able to reap all the fruit that's come from it. And then we have an outdoor garden, which we've done ever since we've moved here. And then the chickens. The chickens are pretty easy. Craig built the chicken coop twice. Originally, it started out as a little large chicken coop. It's big,
Mhm.
but then he extended it to be even bigger. So our chickens live in chicken heaven, basically. But yeah, so a lot of that is just my responsibility. And anytime something's broken or something needs to be upgraded, I hand it over to my ranch hand and he gets it done. So that's kind of our system with the homestead.
Yeah, I made it pretty clear that I'll build things once, and I'm not a recurring action kind of guy when it comes to this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
she's got to keep them alive. I basically build the structures
And deliver.
and
And deliver.
and
Yeah.
deliver, and then if anything needs to be killed, then I end it too.
Nice.
Yeah, sometimes things got to go.
I think I love the idea, the concept of that. I love having also a ranch hand to maintain it. But with that kind of environment, is our children in the plan to bring it into the homestead? And what would that look like?
Yeah, yeah. We have a lot of great inspiration from local families who have homesteads and many children. Children are a big thing up here. You guys probably have seen all the kids running around.
Yeah.
So yeah, family life is big in this area, but seeing other families run very successful homesteads with, you might homeschool and do lessons on gardening or like the ecosystem, like all those types of things are integrated into, I guess, the school systems without being hands-on. So then seeing the kids be able to be hands-on and actually learn and like grow their own food,
Mhm.
it's cool, like seeing how they can actually grasp that and see like, oh, this is how it actually works. So I think when we have children in the future, we're both excited about being able to integrate them into the homestead with like
Yeah.
all the
Yeah,
little things
and we
that we
can
do.
grow it
Yeah.
a lot more when there's children because there's more hands to help with.
There
For
are. And
sure.
more
Yeah.
mouths to feed.
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you already have your 4 kids' names picked out, so that's pretty impressive. All right, so let's say your future kids get a chance to watch your life on rewind. What is a moment that you'd want them to see as proof that you built life on your terms?
You guys ask really good questions. What do you think, Dave?
This one's for you.
If my kids were to watch life on a rewind, at what moment do they see that life
Man,
was
I'm
built
into
on my terms?
Yeah.
I probably think there's two different large inflection points. One of them was when I moved to Denver, took the job at Bigger Pockets, and started really like working my way towards financial independence. We talk about like sacrificing now so you can have more later kind of stuff. And it was, I was 24, 23, 24 when I moved to Denver, which is like prime fun part of life. And I quit drinking like a sip of alcohol for 2 years. I went vegan to save money. I rode my bike to work. I lived behind a curtain. I took advantage of being a single male living in a city by spending as little as possible and making as much as I felt like I could, so that in the future my wife didn't have to work and I could provide for my family and I could spend time with my family later. So that was like a big inflection point. And then, I think when I gave my life to Christ, I think that I changed very much on the inside out when that happened about, oh my God, 3 years ago yesterday, actually.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, didn't even realize it.
Birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those two moments I think were probably the biggest two like inflection change points of my life.
I think that's, I mean, super inspirational. I know if I was watching the movie in my mind already, and I was
Yeah.
inspired to.
And just to like not glaze over that, like people think that they don't want to scrape and live minimally, which we have also done to make things happen that we wanted to. And that time frame isn't that long for that sacrifice and that grind phase. There's different kinds of grind as you continue to grow and scale and live bigger, but there are years of sacrifice and work that need to happen, and it's not as long as people think.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if you put the pieces together of this episode, right? I told you that I started that journey at 24, and by 26, I was financially free.
Yeah.
Right.
Incredible.
So that's the 2 years, and it took 3 houses, and I lived on almost nothing, and like all I did was, I had some fun, like I traveled, but I traveled cheap.
Yeah.
And it was
Different types of sacrifices, but worth it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Look at me
this
now.
is the story that we hear over and over again, right? It's like, it's hard to take that first step to get out of the comfort zone, to do something that goes against what the norm says is right. But almost everyone we've ever talked to that has gone that way has embraced it. No regrets, right?
Mhm.
So I want to know, I'll start wrapping it up here, but who are 3 people or places or books that inspire you?
You go.
Me? Okay. People, places, or books. So the first one is the ocean. I absolutely love being in the water. And what it kind of feels like is every time we go on a beach vacation, which is a few times a year, I come up with so many business ideas. Craig's laughing because I have one for every trip. And so my energy immediately perks up and my mind just spins with, I'm like excited to be on vacation, but then also excited to be at home to start seeing if I could do said business. And then second place is a really cute coffee shop. I love Doma. I don't know if you guys went while you were
Doma.
here, but
No.
they're right by the river. I always love working out of or just drinking coffee in a coffee shop, though. I don't really know exactly what it is. Maybe it's being around other people who are just there doing their own thing, but I like people watching, and that always inspires me. And then the third one is my husband. That's so cliche, but it's true. I see Craig working, day, night. He never stops and he doesn't give anything less than 100%. So, that comes with work, like work. And then spiritually, like he's in the word every day and he's a spiritual leader for a home. So that is very inspiring to see. I always wanted like a man of God. And so to see that in my daily life, that's like, I feel so grateful for it. So yeah,
Well,
he's
thanks,
my
babe.
biggest inspiration.
Thanks, babe.
Can we get sushi later?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm taking her out to a nice dinner. Yeah. I guess for me, number one, I think it comes from just kind of the Lord and the Bible. That's my biggest inspiration every day in terms of like tangible stuff. I think that evolved. Like the people that I followed have kind of evolved, right? Like it started out where I was like following Brandon and Scott Trench and all those guys. And I still love those guys to death. And I consider all of them my good friends. But now it's I guess I really don't have like an individual person that I want to be like. I guess Christ, but like that's really where I'm finding most of my inspiration. And I want to just work as hard as I can and provide for my family and do the best that I can to just, like, cause that's what fills you up. And then of course, right now I'm in like kind of scaling mode. And so I'm sure the book you've heard a million times in the past month is The Science of Scaling. And that book is kind of making me think a little bit bigger. And I'll probably pick up Hormosi's book next and just kind of figure out ways to kind of get to that next level. Because to be honest, I've felt like in business, I've felt relatively stagnant over the last few years. And I've I've worked some stuff out in other parts of my life that I think I'm grown a lot in. But I feel like we're heading into a season of like business growth, which I'm excited for.
In just one sentence, what would you whisper to your younger self?
I think I would just say probably like think bigger,
Mm,
like expand, think bigger. That's my one sentence.
I like it.
I would say don't lose your creativity.
mm.
It's a
Mm,
big one.
so good.
Yeah.
I feel like I felt your emotion and your creative come alive when you were talking about the ocean. And that just gave me a reminder of how important it is to take that time to give space for creativity. And when you were talking about all those business ideas flooding, it's like you had the moment to pause. And yeah, that was a good reminder for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that you said that too, Grace. And maybe because you and I are similar in the way that we see the world. But have you read the book, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin?
No.
It's probably the most underrated book that has come out in the last 5 years. It's
Okay.
really good. And it's for people like us who are more of creatives and how to embrace that creativity and how that is the special sauce. So I would encourage you to pick up a copy or download it on Audible or something like that if you get a
Yeah,
chance.
I
It's
will.
good.
I'll
So
order it
again.
on Amazon right after this.
All right, sounds great. So, guys, we like to end the show by saying we learn, we share, we grow. What is something that you've learned recently that just kind of gave you pause and made you see life a little differently?
So we were in Boston like a couple weeks ago, and that's where my family is from. And we were at my grandparents' house, and they've lived in the same house since it was built in 1961.
Wow.
So, I mean, you do that math, like 65 years or something in the same house, and it's not big. And there was a photo in that house of my dad and his two brothers, and they were kind of all in a row, and it must have been like 30 something years ago. And like my dad was like my age, and so I looked and I like looked at the picture probably for like 2 minutes. It felt longer, but probably realistically 2 minutes. And I was like, holy crap, like my dad would like he was my age, and like he was like he could be like he could be a friend of mine. Like you look at him, he just looks like he'd be a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
And it just made me like realize that, like, I mean, life goes by so quick, and it made me see my dad in like a little bit of a different light. And so if he's ever
Ooh.
like, annoying me a little bit or whatever, like he just has some antics. I kind of just like remember the picture, and I was just like, yeah, there's nothing to be annoyed about. I'm just like so blessed to have a family that's together, and parents that are together, and a loving family that supports us. And yeah, and so just, I don't know, maybe that's kind of a cheesy answer, but I guess
No,
that's
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 a
one of
great.
mine.
great answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciating your family and
Mhm.
giving grace,
Hmm.
I think that's such a good reminder because life goes so fast.
Hmm.
Mine's similar, but not exactly. So I used to get really annoyed with my mom, like mother-daughter dynamics a lot of the times. And it was, I think, in the last year when I realized she is living life for the first time. And I only know her as my mom, but she has had girlfriends, and she's like experiencing everything just for the first time as well. So every time she gets excited or giddy or doesn't know how to respond to like a problem I'm having, I give her a little bit more grace
Mhm.
because I'm like, she's just like an older version of me, which sounds super silly, but it's true. Like I get a lot of my personality from her. So yeah, just understanding that made me realize, like, okay, my parents are my parents, but they have their own lives too. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like, it's obvious, like we all know that, right? Both
yeah,
things we said, but like really
yeah,
internalizing it, I think is like a different experience,
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that stuff.
You guys, thank you so much for sharing with us, for taking the time to come on, for Grace being on our podcast. If our audience wants to connect with you guys, where is the best way for them to do that?
Go on Instagram at Grace's Mark _
There's
and
oh
Perfect.
yeah, yeah.
there's no underscore.
No, there is.
Yeah.
Sorry, he knows it better than me.
Yeah. That's Grace's page. And then
At the Fi Guy
on
for,
Instagram.
for Craig.
Yeah. You can just DM us and we'll probably get back to you.
That's awesome. We'll put links to your Instagrams in the show notes too. So guys, thank you again so much for coming on. You guys have an amazing day. We really love you both.
Yeah, Mike, Caroline, thank you so much for having us. Love you guys.
Love you guys.
See ya.
Thanks for being part of the family today. If you want a closer look at our journey through real life, business, and all the wild adventures, follow us on Instagram at Our Family Invest. And for free resources to help you on your own path, head to ourfamilyinvest.com.
If you like this episode, send it to a friend. And if you're feeling extra generous, drop us a quick review. It really helps us grow this community. Thank you so much for being part of our family today. We really, truly appreciate you.